everybody. In the back there, we're going to start this thing here because we know it's a beautiful Saturday. Some people probably want to go home and do some fun stuff with their family. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Trevor Lawrence. I'm the Secretary Treasurer and Principal Officer of Local 638. I tell you, I'm one happy man today because when we put this thing together, up to about 2 weeks ago, the turnout didn't look very good. And then in the last week or so, we've got a lot of people sign up, so I'm glad to see you in here. I'm also glad to see that people brought their families, because those of you who know me know I'm passionate about this union, but also know that I'm passionate about getting families involved in this union, because it's not just about us, it's about the kids coming up, and I'm glad that you bring your spouses and or your significant other or whatever to come out here. So, how many spouses we have here, or significant others? Great, thank you. Welcome. You didn't come here to listen to me, I can tell you that. So we've got we got a great panel out here. This is our 638 pre-retirement seminar. We want to educate our members, so we decided to put this seminar together. On the panel, we've got some really good people out here today. We've got Wendy Herman from Central States. I know some of the UPS folks are not in Central States anymore, but we have some of our smaller companies who still have Central States, so Wendy will address any issues on that. We have Mike Wyden from UPS. Mike will give you his bio, but Mike is originally from Minnesota, so it's kind of like a coming home for him. There's a quick story about when we put this thing together. We're trying to do this since last year, and we couldn't get somebody from UPS. I happened to go to a UPS JSC hearing in Florida, and I ran into Al Gadim. And I've known Al for quite a while, and Al is a really good guy, so I said, first thing I said to him, well, Al, congratulations on your new job. Really glad to see you moving up. But I said, I need something from you. Our members need something from you. I said, we need to put a retirement seminar, so could you please send somebody up here to do it? He said, I don't know where my desk is yet, so give me 2 weeks and then I'll get back to you. So 2 weeks he called back. In a week he called back. He said, not only did I have somebody for you, but I'm going to send my best guy up here, who's Mike White. So Mike's going to do it. And then we got Matt Winkle here from Wilson McShane. Matt's company have been paying our health and welfare bills for many years, and about a few months ago, he took over the whole thing and is administering our health fund. Matt is one of the smartest people I know. I'm not kidding you. He is. The guy is just brilliant, you know, and funny too. So he's a great guy. He's been really good to us. You don't get to be in Matt's position if you don't know something, and he knows a lot. He knows a lot about a lot of things too. So that's the panel. And with that, I want to acknowledge a couple of people there. We have our office staff, number one, because they've been putting a lot of work in here. So Virginia, where's Virginia and Candy? At the back over here. We have Tom Booker is the president of the local. Larry Mossy at the back there somewhere. Mike Hogan. Scott Lacey is our tech guy right here. Steve Saviola back there. We got Quentin from Quentin Hasawa from our North Dakota office. Quentin. Got our executive board members there. Gene, where is Gene? Gene Jacobson back there. Andy Kennedy. Terry Cavalli. Ron Richardson. I don't know if there's anybody else. I think that's it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt so Matt can talk about health and welfare.
I don't like standing up on those things, so I like to move around a little bit, if that's okay with everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. It's a privilege to be here. It's really gratifying to see this many people come out on a Saturday to talk about retirement. I've been involved in this business since the mid-'70s, and And retirement planning itself seems a lot more complicated now than it did 30 years ago. But let's go back a little farther than that. Let's go back 100 years ago and talk about retirement planning. It was brutally simple then. You worked until you died. And there wasn't much planning going on about it. In the 30s, we passed the Social Security Act, and that was the first time that people really started thinking about having a life after they work. And even then, the planning was pretty simple, because at normal retirement age was 65. That's what people were expected to work to. A lot of them didn't make it that long. The ones that did could expect to live between another 5 to 8 years. So that retirement planning for the people then was in that 5 to 8 period. In the 70s and the 80s, a couple things changed quite a bit, which have made it more difficult to plan for your retirement. One, a good thing, there was downward pressure on the normal retirement age. Social Security changed so you could go out at 62. Particularly organized workers were able to negotiate situations where they could go out earlier, particularly ones that have got very physical jobs. And so the window of when you retired was pushed back. At the same time that was happening, the window on how long you could expect to be alive was pushed out. So now when I'm talking to people that are in their 50s, a husband and a wife, and let's say they're 57 years old, there is a 75% chance that one of them will get to be older than 90, and a 25% chance one of them will get to be older than 95. So now we're talking about a 35, 40-year window. So it is a lot more complicated. Instead of looking at a plan that's going to get you through 5 years, you got to look through a plan that's going to get you through 35 years. We have changed the mortality in this country has dramatically changed in the last 20 years. It's put pressure on pension funds. It's also made retirement planning significantly different. So that's one of the things that I think has made it a lot more complicated for it. During that same, a couple other things that have made it complicated. One, from a retirement funding vehicle, starting when these plans, when most of them were initiated in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, the way that the funding would work would be through employer contributions or personal contributions. And then the money would be invested, usually in stocks and bonds, sometimes other things. And it was expected that those investments would return about 7% a year. And that every 10 years it would double. And it did that. It did that right through the mid-70s, right until about 2002. Am I screwing with this? Okay. I'm so technologically savvy. I'll start yelling if I have to. That's usually how I like to talk. Starting in 2002 till now, that 7% wasn't met. And more like 2% in that 10-year period per year. That's put incredible pressure on retirement plans that are funded through pension funds. It's put incredible pressure on people that have got 401ks or have their own savings. And so you've got a couple things that have happened all at the same time or over time. We expect to retire earlier, we expect to live a lot longer, and the funding vehicles that did not return the monies that they were supposed to return. We have two representatives from pension funds that will get into the health of those plans, but it doesn't matter which plan you read about or you're in, every funding vehicle, be it personal or any other type, took pressure over this last 10 years. The last item that has made retirement planning, I think, a lot more complicated for us, and that's the one I'll spend most of the time talking on, is healthcare. Back in the 30s, the healthcare spend for this country was about 3% of the gross national product. In other words, of all the money that we spent, 3% of it went for healthcare. It's getting close to 18% now, and people think it'll be 20% within a couple of years. In other words, one out of every $5 that we spend is going to go to health care. And the single biggest predictor on what is health care going to cost is age. Single biggest predictor. Little kids, you know, they get runny noses and whatnot, they're not expensive. I'm expensive. I'm a 61-year-old. Anybody over 45, you're going to have a procedure somewhere along the line. It's the single biggest. So you're going to go into a retirement phase where you know that statistically you are most likely to need health care at that time. So you're going to live longer, you want to retire early, the investment sucked, and the health care has gotten to be out of control. This guy is nothing but fun, right? Let me talk about your health care plan, because I think that's where the tide turns a little bit. We administer the plans, and there's actually a couple different classes. There's what we call Class 12, which is where most of the people today are in. That's the UPS plan. So I'm going to spend most of the time talking about that. First of all, just a little bit of primer about your health care plan. Everybody uses the word insurance. That's a very broad term. There is no insurance involved in your health care. We are not an insurance company. You get that card that has our name on it, and you see a little Blue Cross, and you think, well, Blue Cross is an insurance company. They must be insured. No. We utilize Blue Cross as what's called a PPO. They provide discounts. In other words, when you get your explanation of benefits, you'll see a lot of times big discounts, and that's what we contract Blue Cross with. You are a self-insured, self-funded plan. The way that your plan works is that the employer makes contributions, retirees make contributions, that goes into a trust. That trust is jointly administered, half by labor and half management. Those trustees determine the schedule of benefits for the plan. They determine the cost for the retirees. And we receive those monies, keep it in the trust, and then pay claims. It's money in the form of contributions, and money out in the form of claims. Insurance adds another layer of cost to it, and because you have enough monies coming in and enough monies in the bank in your insurance plan, you don't need it. And so you are what's called self-insured. So every dollar that comes in goes out in the form of a claim to participants and their families in the plan. So that's a little primer on yours. As I said, the trustees then determine what the benefits are. And the trustees are half labor and half management. You have a very effective trust. They get along well. They make tough decisions, and there are a lot of tough decisions to make. But from a plan design standpoint, and we work with 18 different trust funds. We're fortunate enough to pay claims on about 200,000 union members and their families. And I get the question a fair amount, what is the best health and welfare plan you work with? And it's Teamsters Local 638. Why is that? On the Class 12, you have a $100 deductible, and then you have what's called a $400 out-of-pocket max. In other words, in your medical area, the most you can spend in a given year is $400, and then the fund pays 100% after that. The average deductible in most of our plans is about $250. The average out-of-pocket is about $2,500. That's a significant difference. Your co-pays on, you're a 90-10 plan. You're the only 90-10 plan left that we've got. All the rest are 80-20s or worse. Deductibles at 100 are kind of a thing of the past in most plans. You've withstood that pressure, and you've maintained that. You've also, to the purpose of this meeting, set up a retirement type plan that is the lowest cost and yet the same schedule of benefits from a medical and pharmacy of any group that we work with. I'm going to talk about retirees in two distinctly different buckets here. Pre-65 or pre-Medicare and after Medicare. And the pre-Medicare, what the trustees have done is allowed you to continue on the medical and pharmacy plan, and depending on when you retire, you start at that amount. Let me give you a couple examples. Again, this is in Class 12, the UPS. Retire between the ages of 50 and 54, your premium is $250 a month. If you retire between 55 and 59, it's $200. And between 60 and 64, it's $150.